Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. Anyone else think all of these events might somehow be related? They all seem to revolve around shadows. My three personal stories that I'll try to keep brief. Number 1. In the house I grew up in, there was a guy who lived there before my family moved in that allegedly came home ridiculously drunk one night from a pub. He slipped on the doorstep and hit his head, causing him to die on the spot. My mother told me that when I was around 2-3 years old. I would run around the living room along the walls like I was chasing something, and she said it seemed like I was speaking to someone while I was doing it. She didn't tell me any of this until much later in life. There was one occasion where I was asleep. Me and one of my brothers used to share a room, and his bed was near the window, and my bed was directly opposite the door looking out onto the hallway on top of the stairs. It still gives me shivers thinking about this one because I can't tell if what happened was a dream or not. The lights were off, everyone was asleep, but for some reason our bedroom door was left open. This wasn't standard for us. I don't really remember dreaming. What I do remember is that for some reason I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and the top half of my body lifted itself up and forward like a spring action. I had no control over it, and as my head rose up while this happened, I saw someone quickly run past our bedroom door along the hallway, and they looked like a classic bank robber with a striped black and white shirt, but I couldn't make out a face. Within a second of seeing this, my torso naturally fell back down into a lying position, and then I must have fallen asleep, but I remember feeling terrified in the seconds that this happened. Number 2. Same house, maybe a little while after the first incident, I don't remember. This time our beds were swapped around, so my brother's was by the door and mine near the window. I remember it must have been around 12 or 1 a.m. as I used to stay up quite late. I had loads of energy. My brother was fast asleep as usual. The room was pitch black again with the lights off, and I was just jumping up and down on my bed like it was a trampoline. My eyes started to adjust to the dark, and when they did, I saw a really dark, humanoid-looking shadow right by the bedroom door on the other side of the room. There were no arms or appendages sticking out, but it was obviously humanoid in shape. I remember I stopped bouncing immediately when I noticed this, and literally all I could hear was the thud from my heartbeat as I was staring at this thing. I realized it was slowly getting closer and closer, moving towards me until it got to about the center of our room. This thing was almost 3D. It wasn't just a shadow, and it was extremely bald and black. There were no facial features or anything to note other than it looked humanoid. I quickly got under my covers, and I was kidding myself. The last thing I remember is peeking outside my covers to see if it was still there, and it was right beside my bed, and then I fell asleep somehow. Number 3. The last story took place years and years later when I was about 27. I was living with my then girlfriend and these 2 cats we were looking after for one of her friends while they were away on holiday. It was a typical night where I stayed up late with the cats, and I was pursuing YouTube on the couch in the living room. Girlfriend was asleep in the bedroom. The cats were acting strange, like they were trying to swat flies out of the air, but I couldn't see any flies. I started to record them because I thought it was funny, odd, and then I noticed in the recording on playback that there were actually orbs, quite a lot of them floating around. I didn't really think too much of it at the time. I still have that recording as well from that night. After that, I went off to bed about 12:30. Before I climbed in, I made sure the door was shut properly so the cats couldn't come in and climb on the bed, disturb our sleep as they had done once or twice. I swear, not even a few minutes after I crashed, I started lucid dreaming, which is weird because I usually only lucid dream before waking up. In the dream, I was at the house party that seemed to be in the middle of nowhere. I was in the kitchen of the house and some other people were there mingling, and then suddenly someone says police and everyone starts darting out of the house in all directions. I see the kitchen has a door that leads out to the back of the house, so I run out of that and into the field with some tall grass. There's no actual back garden, it's just an open field with a couple of trees dotted around. I run towards the closest tree, which isn't far from the house, and I lay down in some tall grass with my back to the house, waiting for the dust to settle. At first, I can still hear the ruckus from people evacuating the house, but then suddenly everything becomes quiet. and I can hear only the wind rustling against the grass and the leaves above me. I then hear footsteps slowly treading their way towards me from the house, but I can't see who is it, so I just stay lying and wait for it to pass. But they get closer and closer, and then I realize they know where I am. Just as I peer behind me to see who is it, I suddenly wake up from my dream and I'm in the bed, but I'm in the same position I was during the dream, peering behind me. And what I see when I woke up froze me in terror, as it was another shadow figure literally lurching over me and looking down at me. I was in shock staring at it, and it felt like forever, but as soon as I saw it, it turned and vanished into the corner of the room. I actually saw this happen. You could say it was sleep paralysis, but I know I actually saw this happen with my own eyes. It turned and slowly vanished, evaporated into the corner of my bedroom. I immediately woke my girlfriend up and basically terrified her, trying to explain this as well. I couldn't sleep for at least 2 nights after. I was that shook. I even drew a description of it somewhere that I might have to go and find for this post. If anyone wants to see it, just ask and I'll link in the comments. Thank you, Republic of Ash, the author. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.